The B-1 Lancer appeared in an era when the world was on the brink of nuclear confrontation. The military was tasked with creating an aircraft capable of breaking through powerful air defense systems and delivering ammunition deep into enemy territory. The project promised to be one of the most ambitious and expensive for American aviation, so the path to its implementation turned out to be a long and arduous one. The program was either closed or restarted, and even when the aircraft entered service, experts continued to question its effectiveness. And here we are, in a world where, after decades of service, the B-1 Lancer has repeatedly proven its power, fully recouping its investment. So how did a plane that started out with a series of failures turn into one of the key tools for U.S. military aviation? The B-1A program dates back to the early 1960s. Shortly after the downing of the Lockheed U-2 Dragon Lady paralyzed the U.S. intelligence community, forcing changes in policies, procedures, and safety protocol. Although it was initially believed that by creating a new bomber that combined the payload and range of the legendary Boeing B-52 Stratofortress with a maximum speed of Mach 2 like the Convair B-58 Hustler, the United States would make it impossible for the USSR to intercept such an aircraft. However, the fatal SA-2 guideline missile, aka S-75 Divina, disrupted these plans. Having assessed the risks of enemy surface-to-air missiles, the United States began to transfer bombers to low-altitude penetration. This was even before the U-2 got shot down. This approach greatly reduced the detection range of radars by using terrain masking. Pilots exploited terrain features such as hills and valleys where the line of sight from the radar to the bomber could be repeatedly disrupted, preventing the radar and its operators from seeing the aircraft. Additionally, random reflections from the ground and other objects only served to further exacerbate the ability of the radars of that time to detect the enemy on their territory. Thanks to all of the above, air defense systems became many times less effective against low-flying aircraft. The B-52, for example, was never intended to perform low-altitude missions, but its flexibility and huge fuel capacity allowed it to adapt to low-altitude work over a long period of time. And the large airframe only added maneuver for installing improved radar jamming and deception systems to combat enemy radar. However, the B-52 was completed in 1961, leading to the development of a design more reminiscent of an airliner than a bomber, with large swept wings, a T-tail, and huge high-bypass engines. It was followed by a similar project, Extended Range Strike Aircraft, URSA, which added a variable sweep wing. It became a hit in the aircraft industry. URSA required the aircraft to have a payload of 10,000 pounds and a range of more than 10,000 miles. Of these, 2,900 miles were flights at low altitudes. All these desires came to a head by 1963, becoming the Advanced Manned Precision Strike System, AMPS project, which led to industry research at Boeing, General Dynamics, and North American. In the following year, the U.S. Air Force B-2 was still not ideal for low-altitude roles. The U.S. Air Force needed a strategic penetration aircraft. The first study of such a device, the Subsonic Low-Altitude Bomber, SLAB, revised the requirements, renaming the concept Advanced Manned Strategic Aircraft, AMSA, which differed from its predecessor in the requirement for high-speed, high-altitude flight, taking into account the similar capabilities of the already existing F-111 Aardvark Mach 2 bomber. By the time the concept was renamed, even the experts themselves jokingly noted that AMSA was America's most studied aircraft. Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara still preferred intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, believing that a new expensive bomber was not what the U.S. needed. Therefore, starting in 1964, he limited the AMSA program to component research and development, and in 1968, he again vetoed funding for the AMSA aircraft development. But President Richard Nixon reinstated the AMSA program soon after taking office, in keeping with his own administration's flexible response strategy, which called for a wide range of options, short of an all-out nuclear war, of course. Nixon's Secretary of Defense Melvin Laird reviewed the programs, subsequently reducing the number of FB-111s that didn't have the required range, and advised the military to speed up research into the AMSA design. So after a series of disagreements, in 1969, the program finally acquired an official name, B-1A, and the Air Force published a request for proposals from Boeing, General Dynamics, and North American Rockwell for the future bomber. In 1971, after reviewing the layout, North American Rockwell received 297 requests for design changes due to non-compliance with specs and desired improvements for ease of maintenance and operation. A separate problem was inflation, due to which the estimated cost of one such aircraft soared from $40 million in 1970 to $70 million by 1975, which is why President Carter ordered a review of the entire program. A significant reason was also that he was told about work on a stealth aircraft, the active development of which the president considered a better idea than continuing work on the B-1. In June of 1977, Carter announced the cancellation of the B-1A in favor of intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, and submarine-launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs, calling the decision one of the most difficult of his tenure. So despite the secrecy of the stealth bomber program, the Advanced Technology Bomber ATB project was authorized, which later led us to the legendary B-2 Spirit. However, flight testing of the B-1A prototypes continued until April 1981, and the program had already reached 70 flights, totaling 378 hours. Upon taking office, President Reagan faced the same problem as Carter, the decision of whether to continue with the B-1 or wait until development of what was thought to be a more advanced ATB was completed. However, by October of 1981, Reagan announced an order for 100 B-1s to fulfill the Long-Range Combat Aircraft LRCA role, and in January 1982, the U.S. Air Force signed 2 contracts with Rockwell worth $2.2 billion for the development and production of these 100 bombers. Numerous changes were made to the B-1A design, resulting in the new B-1B. These changes included a reduction in top speed, allowing variable aspect intake ramps by simpler fixed geometry intake ramps, which reduced the B-1B's radar cross-section and was a good compromise for reducing speed. High subsonic speeds at low altitude were the focus area for the revised design, and speeds at low altitudes were increased from Mach 0.85 to Mach 0.92. The maximum speed of the bomber at high altitude was Mach 1.25. Maximum takeoff weight was also taken into account, increasing it from 395,000 pounds in the B-1A version to 477,000 pounds. This allowed the aircraft to take off with a full internal fuel load and the ability to install external weapons. Moreover, due to the efforts of Rockwell engineers, the increase in the empty weight of the aircraft was minimal. With an eye on the Soviet introduction of the new MiG-31 equipped with the Zaslon radar system and other aircraft with the ability to look down, the B-1B's electronic warfare suite was also heavily modernized. Now let's go over the appearance. The B-1 received a mixed wing configuration with a variable sweep wing from 15 to 67.5 degrees, triangular motion control keels, a crosstail, and 4 General Electric F101 GE102 turbofan engines, each with 17,390 pound-feet of thrust and 30,780 pound-feet with afterburner. With the B-1B to B-1R upgrade concept in 2004, there was a want to replace it with the Pratt & Whitney F-119, like with Lockheed Martin's F-22 Raptor, but they never got to the point of implementation. The B-1's main computer was the IBM AP-101 used on the Space Shuttle Orbiter and the B-52 bomber. Lancer's offensive avionics include Northrop Grumman AN APQ-164, a forward-looking offensive passive electronically scanned array radar set with electronic beam steering, synthetic aperture radar, ground-moving target indication (GMTI), and terrain-following radar modes, Doppler navigation, radar altimeter, and an inertial navigation suite. In further modernization of the B-1B Block D starting in 1995, a GPS receiver was added to it. Defense electronics included Eaton AN ALQ-161 radar warning and defense jamming equipment with 3 sets of antennas and an AN ALQ-153 missile approach warning system. ALQ-161 has 8 AN ALE-49 flare dispensers, each of which has space for 12 MJU-23 edition of Lockheed Martin's Sniper Advanced Targeting Pod quickly enabled Bone to provide precise weapon targeting for new generations of smart munitions. After the dumb bomb successfully used by the B-1B during its debut Iraqi Operation Desert Fox in 1998, the ability to drop bombs with pinpoint accuracy gave the bomber a second wind as a close air support aircraft. Huge fuel reserves and no less impressive carrying capacity made it an unexpected hero in combat operations in the vastness of Iraq and Syria. It could circle a target for hours, providing real-time reconnaissance to headquarters and troops on the ground, and then use relayed targeting data from ground troops or its own sniper pod to accurately drop thousands of pounds of ordnance onto enemy positions. Although the ability to carry external weapons was part of the B-1's plans back during the Cold War, this idea was quickly abandoned in accordance with the START Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. However, this capability has recently been restored with a focus on airlifting up to a dozen additional AGM-158 Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile, JASSM, subsonic cruise missiles, or AGM-158C long-range anti-ship missile, LRASM, derivatives, in addition to 24 more of any of these weapons heat traps. Their missiles, which weigh over 3.3 pounds, are still some of the largest infrared countermeasures in the entire world. The survival of the B-1 against the background of its colleagues in the shop was also facilitated by the relatively low effective dispersion area, ESR. Yes, this is far from a stealth fighter, but thanks to the design of the aircraft, serpentine air intakes, and the active use of radio-absorbing material on its fuselage, the ESR of the B-1 is about 1/50th of the ESR of the B-52 of similar dimensions. Simply put, the Bone's EPR is compatible to that of a small, albeit not altogether, stealth fighter. The new B-1B Lancer undoubtedly posed a threat to the USSR. With a range of over 3,400 miles without refueling, in-flight refueling capabilities, and a payload capacity of 125,000 pounds, the bomber could deliver its nuclear present anywhere on the planet. It's a shame that once the B-1B found its way into service shortly after the collapse of the USSR, it had no mission left. With the dissolution of Strategic Air Command, SAC, in 1992, nuclear capabilities were eliminated and all B-1s in the U.S. Air Force fleet became conventional. On the other hand, they fit into the internal bomb bays of Bone. Thus, a total of 36 cruise missiles. The ability to carry such a large number of LRASM will make the B-1 equipped with load-adaptable modular pylon a particularly powerful and unpredictable weapon in any potential campaign against PRC naval forces in the Asia-Pacific theater. As for hypersonic weapons, whose dimensions are still quite impressive for fighters, the Lancer's external carrier is also important. For example, the B-1 can carry up to 12 hypersonic attack cruise missiles, HACMs, with an operational range of 1,000 miles and a maximum speed of Mach 8, currently under active development. Previously, this list also included the AGM-138A air-launched rapid response weapon, Arrow hypersonic missiles, the plans for which were canceled by the U.S. Air Force in March of 2023. In fact, if the U.S. Air Force manages to equip its fleet of remaining 45 Lancer bombers with enough missiles and obtain sufficient government funding, it'll have one of the most powerful combinations of conventional weapons systems in history. Think about it. Just 5 aircraft with a total crew of 15 people can destroy 6 warships with a total crew of over 3,000 people. It's unlikely that anything other than nuclear weapons can offer you such a generous ratio. Although even such powerful machines as Bone sooner or later have to leave the aircraft fleet, in 2025, the Pentagon plans to begin gradually replacing these Atlases with new B-21 Raider stealth bombers from Northrop Grumman. But we believe that with further upgrades, the B-1 will still be capable of many things, thanks to which it'll be able to stake its place in the ranks of the U.S. Air Force until 2040. What do you think? Will the U.S. Air Force agree to get rid of this old man by the mid-2030s? Or will we still see some kind of Bone version 2.0? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more content like today's. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.